We're ready now. Meow. We're ready.
Are you
Meow.
sure everyone's ready now?
Yes, Stu. This is episode like 40, and the recording button, red light, it all pops on. Everybody knows you're recording.
Oh man.
I know. We should try to figure out a way to hide that.
What is up, everybody?
What's going on?
And that's David, and that's Stephanie, and this is Filling the Storehouse podcast. And I'm pretty fired up about this fireside chat. We have an evening. Well, I don't have my cocktail with me, but Stephanie has hers. She came prepared. I feel underprepared right now. So before we get into introductions and before we kind of get into the meat of this talk, I have a pretty serious question to ask.
Here we go.
So I was taking my daughter to school this morning. She's 6 years old. I was taking her to kindergarten, and I know we all have the three of us have kids. And we were driving down the road, and there's a bunch of cows on the side of the road, and there was a cowboy riding around on horses, kind of wrangling up the cows. And she said, "Daddy, why do they call them cowboys? Because they're riding horses. Shouldn't they be called like horse boys?"
Huh.
I didn't have an answer for that. So that's my question to start this podcast off. How do you answer that?
That's deep.
That existential 6-year-old, like just bringing the whole world into question.
Well, what I find to be really interesting is that this is just one example of a multitude where your 6-year-old daughter stumps you with her questions because the advanced level of her questioning and her English in general exceeds yours. And so there's just a level of difficulty that I completely perceive. And I don't know how she's ever going to get over that. So great question though, Stu.
Okay. All right. Well, let's ponder that for a little while. And now, Stephanie, welcome.
I don't know how I follow that.
Right?
It's easy. It's easy. Every single week, guests follow something like that. So you're going to crush it. Don't even worry.
We have Stephanie Betters on tonight with us, and she was recently on the Bigger Pockets business podcast and crushed it. And I am very fortunate to have Stephanie as the leader of a small group accountability group that I'm in with 7-figure flipping mastermind group. And I can't tell you how much value I've already received from Stephanie in the short time period that we've been a part of the group. And we're really excited about having you on tonight. So thank you for being here. I know you're a busy woman, but we're going to kind of get into that a lot tonight. But if you could just give those that haven't heard that podcast, don't know you, aren't in the mastermind group, just kind of a little bit of backstory about who you are and kind of what you do.
Oh, goodness. Okay. So first and foremost, I am a wife to Zach Betters. I am a mother of 3 babies. They are 6, 8, and 11. I'm a nurse practitioner. I do cardiothoracic surgery part-time. And I'm a real estate investor. The real estate investment company is called Better Path Homes. It's out of Charlotte, North Carolina. We're on pace to do 200 deals this year. It's been pretty crazy, even through COVID. We buckled down and we've done quite a bit. And I also have a couple spin-off companies that kind of developed off of the real estate investment company. I have a CRM company, software company that's powered by Salesforce called Left Main REI, and a social media marketing company called Social Media REI that targets motivated sellers on Facebook. We're just beta testing TikTok right now, so I'll get back to you on that. I'm having fun with it.
Nice.
And then I do some consulting and some. I'm the growth officer at Sharper Business Solutions.
Is that it?
Is that it?
Like that's.
What else? I eat chocolate and stress out. No.
And drink wine. And
I'm drinking a glass of wine tonight, relaxing. So what can go wrong?
That's awesome. There's a ton there. The one thing that you said that kind of stuck out, you do heart surgery on the side. Your side gig is heart surgery.
Yeah, it didn't always start out like that. That was my full-time gig.
No big deal.
Yeah, if you don't mind, can you I think it'd be huge value to all our listeners, but can you rewind a little bit and just kind of talk about the beginning and then, walk us through just how something like this, because I think the problem is a lot of folks, they look at Stephanie Betters in 2020, 200 deals, heart surgery on the side, babies, consulting, all the stuff you're doing, right? And I think a lot of us will tend to look at that and be like, I need to be there tomorrow. Like that's a snapshot in time and I should be doing that. Do you mind just kind of backing it up a little bit and giving us some of the background?
Sure. So this whole thing started for us in 2007. My husband and I were recently married, and we got married July 2007, and straight out of college. I was 21 years old, had no money, debt, a lot of debt. Undergrad, he had a bunch of debt from undergrad, and he had an associate's degree before his bachelor's, so he had quite a bit of debt. And we didn't know what to do. We were renting, and I was like, this is, he decided that what we should do is we should stop renting. We should buy a house, but we couldn't afford that because we just got out of school and hadn't really had a chance. I was working as an RN. He was working as a CT technician at that time, CAT scan. And we were trying to figure out what we were going to do the rest of our lives. And he said, well, you know what people do when they can't afford a house is they buy a foreclosed one. So I was like, okay, this wasn't really in my imagination. I didn't picture you carrying me across the threshold in a moldy, nasty house, right? But he convinced me to do it somehow. I still don't know how. We had to break into the house to like paint it, to get a mortgage, traditional mortgage. It was crazy, but we lived in it and we flipped it and we sold it literally at the peak of the market. Right before, literally 2 weeks later after we closed and resold it, the market fell out. So we were super fortunate, super fortunate. We made some good money off that flip. We put it in the bank and we went to grad school. That's when, so I went to nurse practitioner school and he went to physician assistant school, Long Island, New York. And when we were there, when we had, we were graduating, our family was kind of all over the place. We didn't know what to do. So we decided Charlotte's market seemed good. We did some, kind of general market analysis, looked at the Tri-City area and Raleigh and kind of northern North Carolina. We looked at really everywhere, Texas, and we decided that Charlotte would be a good place for the real estate market. We felt like it kind of mirrored what Raleigh did. So we felt like we had a little bit of a measuring stick and it was great for our medical careers. So we moved here, kind of took a dip. We had never been to Charlotte other than the airport, had no family here. And we rented for about 6 months and we bought a house and we started working. And this is really all I knew what to do, right? Like I was really scared. I had a lot of fear going into this. Zach, my husband, was very confident. He felt like this makes sense. The numbers make sense. And I was just like, oh my gosh, we spent so much time on our education. We have all this debt. Like, how can we take this risk? I don't know that I see the path for this, and I just felt like we worked so hard to get our medical degrees and to basically get our dream jobs at that point. And why were we going to mess it up, And the more I thought about it, the more I talked to him about it, the more I kind of saw, okay, there's a path here for passive income, right? Like obviously we're working a lot of hours in medicine. How do we have something kind of working for us in the meantime? That way we're not just waiting on paychecks and spending it and then waiting on paychecks, right? So this whole passive income thing kind of came to light, and we bought our first rental in 2014. And I was like, okay, that wasn't as scary as I thought it'd be. And I feel like that's really a lot of the journey for me has been dealing with fear and then taking a small step and then be like, okay, that wasn't that bad, And oh gosh, fast forward 6 years, he's kind of created a monster now. But yeah, that's how it started. We just kind of started one step at a time and trying to just slowly step outside my comfort zone and take action, just really one thing at a time. So we got that rental. Now, when we closed on that rental, I had our third baby shortly after that. kind of into we had been in our jobs for about 2 years. And I started to feel a little bit comfortable. I was like, okay, I feel like we got a rental. We're settled. We are a little bit settled in our career, at least. You know, we can afford what's going on. You know, we have a little equity in our house. Let's try to get a HELOC and see if we can do something with a HELOC. That felt like a calculated risk that I was comfortable with at the time. Our house had appreciated, which we had hoped it would. And that was kind of our measuring stick too. Like, okay, if it appreciates, we'll have some equity and then we can play with that, you know? So then that was like another like little bet that we made ourselves. And if that was like if we met that goal, then we could take the next step. And then I felt comfortable because I, analyzed the situation. Okay, yes, if we get that money, then we can do that. And that's kind of our nest egg. And it was $20,000. It wasn't a lot of money. It was the HELOC on our house, which had appreciated much more than that. So I felt like, okay, I can risk 20,000. I'm living in this house. It's going to appreciate even more than that. Like, what's the worst that can happen? Right. I mean, obviously I could lose 20 grand, but then I felt like at least I still have equity. I'm not going to die, not be able to like pay my bills, So, we did it. We bought a rental, and then we actually ended up buying a flip at the same exact time. And then we had to use private money for that. So I, leveraged our relationships at the hospital and the physicians we were around and the high net worth individuals, kind of talking about what we were doing. And people are like, oh, I'd be interested in doing that with you. So we took the 20 grand and put it towards the rental, which the kind of swallowed that 20 grand right up. And then thankfully we had an opportunity to do another renovation. We kind of got both 2 deals all at once at the same exact time because we were making offers. So they're both MLS deals and they both got accepted. I was like, oh, snap. Now what do we do? But so that kind of forced us to talk about real estate with other people. And then we got that private money lender who lent on that deal. And we flipped that in about a month. It was a smaller kind of renovation. And then we took all of that profit. We paid off a lender, of course, and put all of that towards the next house. And we just kind of rolled it and moved it, rolled it and moved it. We didn't take any money for ourselves. We didn't pay ourselves because we were getting our W-2 income. So if we felt like, let's just keep reinvesting it in the business. And then we started slowly growing. We started marketing with direct mail. We just did every door direct mail. We didn't know anything about marketing. We weren't part of any groups, but we heard of every door direct mail. So we started doing that, and then we started getting, a couple deals. We had a couple deals then under renovation with a private money lender. We used the same guy again. And then we had 2 rehabs going at once, 2 or 3 at the time. And I was like, we can't take anymore. We're too busy. Like, we're running around the kids in the car. I don't know how we're going to take this next deal down. And we just promised this homeowner we buy it. And then Zach says, well, I heard of something called wholesaling off Craigslist. And we talked to some, local investors we had met. Like, we had gone to some RIAs and met some other people. And we said, we talked to this guy and we said, hey, we've got this deal. Like, what do you think about the numbers? He's like, oh yeah, the numbers are good. I'd buy it. And I think we made like $11,000 wholesaling it to him. And I was like, well, that was good. That was really nice. Let's do more of that, So kind of slowly grew from one thing to the next. We just tried to figure out our next step, and what I will say with starting this whole thing is I really didn't know what I thought our end goal was really changed once we started going. I really thought we would just buy, maybe 3 rentals per kid. And we try to do that in the next 10 years because then the youngest would be 16 and the others would be in college. We'd have enough for college and weddings and things, and maybe some for retirement. I didn't realize what would happen once we started going as far as like growing a business. It kind of happened, like, okay, all of a sudden we had to hire someone to help us. And then now we were doing more volume, and now we were wholesaling, and now we had to figure out the systems and then really sit down and evaluate where we wanted to go. So we kind of had this aha moment. I don't even know, maybe a year or so into this whole thing where we thought, okay, we can build some passive income, but it's going to take longer to do that. We can only buy, 1 or 2 at a time. That way it's going to eat up all our capital. What if we build out our company so that we can manage that passively? What if we can be passive owners and not operators? Then it still feels like passive income, just like, well, as passive as it gets, right? Passive, like holding rentals. What if we can build a company so we just own it and it works? And that's when we really started looking for communities. We were on Bigger Pockets, so that was a big part of this. And I think that we heard of we started listening to podcasts. Zach found Justin Williams and his 7-Figure Flipping podcast, House Flipping HQ podcast. We listened to a bunch of them, and we started learning that there were these communities. And we found that there was a group of people trying to do the same thing we were trying to do. Like, oh, okay, how do we be business owners now? And this whole time we're working full time, and we weren't willing to give up medicine at that point. So then we started joining these communities and learning what's possible. And I feel like that opened up a whole new room in my mind. I had no idea what you could do. I had no idea you could do 100 deals. At that point, when someone told me they did 100 deals in a year, I was like, why are you even lying? Like, don't BS me. You know what I mean? Like, it's
right.
Yeah. I'm like, that's not even humanly possible. How could you do 100? I'm dying over like 5, Yeah. And then, so I feel like my mind just opened and things started happening when I started putting myself in a situation to learn and to be around people who are interested in the same things.
There's like so much to unpack there that we could dive into. I mean, what I love about, the whole story from the very get-go is just this idea of, I don't really know how to do this. We don't really know how to attack it, but we're going to go attack it anyways. Right. And we're going to kind of figure it out as we go. And, there's something to that, because there's so many people that have these same ideas that want to build passive income, and they want to build businesses and create wealth, but they never do because they don't take that first step, and they don't get over that risk factor and move forward towards that. And, have you always kind of been like a risk taker, or like, taking, some calculated risk, or like what kind of pushed you both to start that? Was your husband, Zach, or?
Yes, Zach is much more risk tolerant than I am. I have grown to be more risk tolerant. I would say starting this whole journey, I was probably like at least moderate. Like, I'll go skiing down triple diamonds, triple black diamonds. I mean, I'll take risks like that.
Yeah.
I'll do all the crazy stuff. I want to do the most intense, thing I can, right? Like, I've always picked the most intense thing. I wanted to do the hardest thing all the time. But the finances was a little bit scarier for me because I just didn't know how to manage it. So because I didn't know, I tended to be a little bit more conservative. You pay off debt, you go to school, you get good grades, you get a good job. Like, that's all I knew. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what most of us know.
Yeah. I mean, so I was willing to consider it. I just didn't know how to measure success. I didn't know how to measure the next step. And I just needed like some sort of framework to move forward. I didn't, because I just had literally no idea of what this would look like, But what I realized was, well, just because I couldn't clearly see the end game doesn't mean that I couldn't clearly see the next step. So I think what really overwhelmed me in the beginning is I just didn't know where we would end up. And I think that's the wrong question. Just like you kind of alluded to in the beginning of the call, like David, like when you say, oh, Stephanie, 2020, I should just be there. Like, no, you shouldn't be afraid to be where I am or where anybody else is in their business. What you should be thinking about is just what the next thing is that you should do. And then it's a lot less scary, right? Like, instead of me making the decision of like, how are we going to get 12 rental houses before my kids go to college? Like, that overwhelming thought, like, I can't possibly do that. Like, you don't start with that, right? You obviously have to have a goal and a vision for what you want, but then that's not the next step is all of a sudden you have 12. The next step is looking on Zillow for, owner deals, like for sale by owner deals, and just seeing what even is there, that kind of next step. And that's what I learned along the way, is that it's not about the big step or like being there right away. It's just about taking incremental action and that measuring that. And then before you know it, you're way down the line.
So did you guys have a big vision? I mean, did you guys, we talk about, EOS and traction and 10-year goals and 3 years and, overall arching visions and missions. Like, did you guys have that at first, or did it take a long time to figure that out?
Took about a year and a half to even figure out that we didn't know exactly what the vision was, but we had already started. And I feel like that's generally the journey. Like, you're on the East Coast, you're like, I'm going to California. And you're like, okay, I'm going to drive. And you just start driving and you're like, okay, wait a minute. I probably should think about how I'm getting there. Right. So I think it's good. You have to start driving at some point, right? Like, I'm going to get a map of the gas station on my way. Right. But you can't not go to California because you don't know where the first gas station is.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a great analogy. And do you mind sharing kind of what that why is, that vision is that you guys came up with that's driving you to continued growth and success?
Yeah, sure. So our 10-year goal, I think it needs to be bigger than just you and your personal finances. Of course, everybody wants financial stability and freedom. But what I really want to do is I want to give a massive amount of money away. Like, I want to pay off someone's house. I want to give, $1 million to charity every year. I want to be able to have our whole team nominate a charity. I want to give away houses. I want to literally give away so much money that there's literally no way anybody can ever thank you, or like, I just want to give a massive amount. I think you need to work hard so you have more to give.
Yeah, no, we love that. I was just having a conversation today with one of my sailors who were coincidentally talking about the potential of transitioning out of the military, and we're having the same exact conversation. He brought that up, like, hey, so what do you guys, what are you doing this for? And at the end of the day, that's exactly what it was. And it was the same numbers. It was, get as quickly as we can get to giving $1 million away a year. And what does that mean? Like, what is the doing the backwards planning from that? That's California, right? The $1 million a year. So how do you backwards plan to, it starts with $10 and then $10,000 and you get there. So I love that. That's awesome. And I think you're so right in that you have to have something that's more than, I just want to make money, or I just want more, because that's pretty weak and pretty shallow. And it just doesn't, that dies pretty quickly. So I love that.
And
Thank you for sharing that.
No one's going to be inspired to follow you either, if that's all like you care about your own finances.
Right.
But
You ask for money, hey, can I get a loan? Well, I want more money. Yeah, it's kind of hard to be inspired by that.
yeah, I mean, it's about impact for me. It's impact in my community. It's impact for my employees and my team. Like, that's huge. Impact for my kids. Impact for the industry. Like, that's what it's about. You know what I mean? It's about changing it for things for the better and helping people, solving problems, and giving it away.
That's awesome.
So how do you go from, buying a couple rentals to now doing 200 deals a year, running three other companies,
Yeah.
still, full-time mom, doing cardiac surgery, no big deal. Like, how do you do it all?
Well, I'll tell you, it's not always pretty. I may look
come
like
on
I'm
now.
pretty relaxed here with my glass of wine. No, I have good days and I have really bad days too. My bad days are really bad, where like I don't even want to get out of bed or I cry on my bathroom floor because I'm so overwhelmed. It's not always easy. You're never totally balanced. There's always a balance and a counterbalance. Like, I feel like we're always swaying in between, too much work and, wondering if you're doing enough work. Like, I feel like you always go back and forth. I don't know how this happened. It's not something I imagined, but I think what happened was we just started going, and then we learned and we found that we really liked it, and that we found it was really rewarding. And as we slowly grew, we got over the first hurdle of hiring somebody. We hired somebody to answer the phones when we started marketing, because we were hiding, and I was like literally in the closet with my kids banging on the door because I'm talking to a homeowner. I'm trying to be professional. And my kids are like, mom, yeah, and I'm trying to keep it together.
It's never happened to either of us. Never.
Oh my gosh. Or driving to job sites with like paint and lumber in my minivan and trying to like keep the guys on site. I mean, it just got to a point where it's like, okay, we just need to hire somebody to do these things. And then once I hired somebody to be able to focus on one of the tasks, then all of a sudden the capacity grew. Then I saw, oh, I can think about other things. Like as soon as I pulled myself out of the weeds, even just a little bit in one department, I was like, oh wow, I can do this with marketing. Maybe I can get more leads this way. Like your just mind just opens when you have the ability for you to focus and for somebody else to focus on tasks. And that just kept happening over and over and over again. Like I was the first hire was like a lead intake person to answer the phones. And then I was like, oh, I can think about marketing. I can think about this. I have time now, And so then I started dabbling with marketing, and then transactions was really busy. I couldn't talk to the homeowners or the lawyers during business hours because I was in the hospital or I was dealing with kids. And so the transaction coordinator was next. And then I felt like, oh, I can like free this up and I can just close the deal, and then I can like hand off to transaction coordination. And then the project manager, that just broke. And I was like, I can't go to 10 different job sites. I can't keep getting deals if my systems keep breaking for renovation. So I need a project manager to help me like travel and deliver stuff and whatever. And then like the capacity just grew incrementally like that. Now we could monetize more leads. We kind of figured out how to be better at follow-up, how to be better at marketing. Sales was a constantly moving thing. We did a lot of different things there, but for the longest time, Zach and I were the ones on the appointments until that like just couldn't happen anymore. Right. And then I didn't want to either. Like that was a big thing. I didn't want to go on appointments. I didn't want last minute to have to run out to somebody's house, even though I loved talking to people and like making the connection and doing the deal. I just got to a point where like I can't be on call 24/7 for the hospital and for the real estate stuff. So we started figuring out how to hire sales reps, and then like it just grew, Then I had more mind space. The first thing I did when I had more mind space is I started like trying to innovate, trying to find a competitive edge, and that's how Facebook was born, advertising on Facebook. And then I was like, oh wow, this is working. No one's doing it. Then I started talking to other investors like, hey, do you want me to try this? I think I'm onto something. And then it worked for them. And I was like, this is awesome. We've got to hire this out. But by then, like, I'm now used to hiring. I'm used to delegating. And I felt like, okay, now I kind of understand how to run a business. I understand how to get where I want to go. So then it's just a little bit easier.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think, there's great points in there. People should listen to that as you go forward. It's that constant forward momentum and that velocity, and eventually once you free that space up, because that's so important, right? People want to own all these processes, and they don't want to delegate any of it because they think they could do it better. And there's a great chance that you can do it better, but it's not about doing it better necessarily. An 80% solution to your 100% solution, which enables you to get potentially 10x the amount of deals, but it's simple math, right? And I just want to encourage you. One thing that you said, there are oftentimes many mornings where Stu will Zoom me and he'll be on his bathroom floor crying in a puddle of tears. And I think that's okay. It really helps the business grow, helps you grow closer to your business partner or other. And I think it's important. So I just want to encourage you that that's part of our business model as well.
Yeah. I think sometimes I just need a good cry,
Yeah. Yeah. No, he says it all the time. He says it all the time.
Support, man. Appreciate it.
You're welcome, buddy. My virtual shoulder is yours. So I'm kind of curious, when I want to talk specifically about this CRM, and Stu and I are actually pursuing this as well, but what kind of led to, so why did you do it? Kind of how'd you do it? What'd you do? And the big picture to that.
Sure. So that one came out of pure anger. Like, I'm just not even going to try to sugarcoat it. I was just really angry, got really upset that there wasn't a good solution for a way to manage leads and manage sales. We had kind of these rudimentary platforms that would break and were unstable and couldn't automate and couldn't find stuff. I was always talking to like my lead manager and my sales rep, like, I put that task in, it's just gone. I don't know what happened to Podio. And it just there was not a solution that integrated stuff. And I felt like the systems of our business were all dependent on this on our CRM, and it was failing us. And here we are trying to run, like a business at volume, trying to get this to be a multi-million-dollar business. And like, we're struggling with a freaking platform, you know what I mean? Like software, it was ridiculous. So I just sought out, I was like, what's the best CRM? I'm going to pay for it, whatever it is. When I said that, I had no idea how much it costs, but I went to Salesforce and I went through all this development stuff and these discovery calls with their development team and everything. And it was frustrating to try to teach somebody better industry, right? Like our industry, I think, is very unique in how we process things. And we got to the very end of all these discovery calls. I probably spent like 8 hours on these calls with these people. And they said that they would be able to build me a framework, like not even all the things I wanted, bare framework for $100,000. And it would take 6 months for them to get it live. And I lost my mind. Like I just exploded, like Inside Out, the kids movie with like Louis Black. I was like, this is ridiculous. This is extortion. How does anybody afford this? How could you ask me for that? How is it so expensive? 6 months. Oh my God, I need it now. What am I going to do? So I just said, F it. I'm going to build it myself. How hard can it be? And it was hard.
Yeah.
It was really hard. Yeah. But I built it. I'm just going to build on Salesforce platform. I'm going to teach myself how to code like Salesforce needs us to code. I had learned how to code many years ago, barely, I'm like, it's like riding a bike. I'll figure it out again. And I just taught myself. I took a couple really, really old Salesforce courses, like from the early 2000s, because all the new ones were $5,000 each course. And I was like, I'm just not paying $5,000 for a course. I'm just not doing it. But this is kind of part of how Salesforce, I don't want to say extorts, but they're the luxury product, right? So like all the things associated with them are very expensive. So anyway, I built it. It took me, about 300 hours. And I don't think I saw my husband the whole time. I'm like in the computer, like, I'm going to figure this out. There was a lot of swearing involved. There was a lot of drinking. No, just kidding. But so I built it and then we launched. It took me about a month and a half, 2 months to get it coded and launched. And our company started using it, and Salesforce followed up with me like, oh, hey, little girl, have you given up yet? And I was like, oh no, it's done. I built it. And they were like, wait a minute, what do you mean you built it? So we did a Zoom
That's
call.
awesome.
We did a Zoom call. I showed them what I built, and they were like, can we come to Charlotte and see you and see it and your team? And I was like, oh, I guess you better bring some coffee,
Give me $100,000.
What up? So, so they came to my office and they were like, this is amazing. This is a white space. We don't have anything for the real estate investment industry available on our platform besides like this development cost, which is cost prohibitive for us and our companies. Like no one in our industry is going to spend $100,000. And if you do, like, I'm concerned that you're spending your money wisely, right? Be a private money lender instead or something. But anyway, so they said, if you're interested, we'd like to partner with you and have you bring this to your industry. And I didn't know what does that look like? What do you need from me? And they asked me to develop it out and to code it a little bit further so I could make it into an app that they could then embed and then resell. So then about 6 months later, after like a rigorous security review and like their whole platform they tried to break the app. They've tried to, to try to hack it so that, they could fail me. Basically they tried and they passed. So it launched in January of 2020 and it's been awesome. It's like my favorite combination of things. It's the systems of the business that work. It's all the process kind of built into it. It feeds my business. My company's never been more efficient because of it. I know where everything is, every lead, the reporting is clear, data is clear. It's integrative with phones and texts. And it's what we deserve in our industry when we're spending all this money trying to run it, So I'm pretty pumped about it. It's been a game changer for me, so I'm excited to bring this to the industry. And we talk about like impact. Like I'm here for it. I'm so excited,
I'm excited. I'm a little nervous to get in it and start learning it, but I mean I know for a fact it's gonna have an impact on us and our business, because I mean we got lists on Excel spreadsheets, we got project management software, we got Dropbox, we got Google Drive, we got, I mean, it's just all over the place, and
Yeah.
we're making it work, but you know, I feel like we're flailing at it daily, um, and so
There's a
yeah.
lot of systems.
What's that?
There's a lot of systems, there's call rail, and there's texting platforms and power dialers and all these external things that don't talk to each other.
Yeah.
And
Well, it can get overwhelming. I mean, there's, you know, we're trying to figure out what texting platform to use and what, you know, direct mail to use, and you know, there's a lot there, and so that, you know, that kind of brings me to this idea, and the thought of, you know, mastermind groups and surrounding yourself with like-minded people, and you know, I know the answer already, but I kind of want to talk about it. You know, for us, it's been a game changer. And you know, I'm just curious, like for you and Zach, like when did you kind of realize that you really needed to be around that, and how has that really like helped you kind of grow the business?
Yeah. Once we started kind of bumping into our own knowledge, like we didn't know how to wholesale. We knew how to swing a hammer. We knew how to buy deals off MLS. That's all we knew. We didn't know how to market. We Googled that, found some YouTube videos. But once we had to figure out how to wholesale, that was really like, oh, okay, we've got to figure out how to educate ourselves besides on Google. So that's when we started finding those communities and connecting with people. But I'll say that, going to the masterminds, I have always felt like a little bit left out, because I'm not I don't consider myself like a traditional visionary, who goes to these things and is like, we're going to the moon. Like I don't operate like that tech normally. I think I have some vision. I can put some stuff together, and mostly out of brute force. But most of the people in masterminds are all visionaries, and they're all like bopping around all these crazy ideas. And I don't have those same types of crazy ideas. My stuff is more process and systems, and like how, and putting like, okay, let's put the pieces together, let's focus, and let's like pick an initiative and like do it. So I always felt like it was amazing to go there and get the ideas and get the knowledge. And then a part of me also felt really overwhelmed too. So I needed to kind of feed like this how part of my brain. And it ended up working really good, because Zach's a visionary and I'm the integrator type. I'm the COO type brain. And he went and like got all these ideas. And I'm not that girl who's going to come up with like all the ideas. I never would have done this by myself. Like if it was just me, I would have been working in the hospital. But Zach's out there trying to venture out, and I needed that vision too. So when I talk to other visionaries, like I get energy because I like that vision. But I need that vision for me to come up with the systems. But then sometimes I feel overwhelmed because there's a lot of systems to develop, and the how, and like, where are my people? Like I need other integrators too, right? So it's
Hey,
funny.
I'm an integrator too, and David's the big visionary squirrel guy. So
Yeah.
I'm with you. I'm with you. I
Yeah,
feel you.
it's sometimes it's a little overwhelming. So
Yeah.
I think you need both. I think you need to get in a place where people are thinking big, so that your own mind expands. And then I think you need some sort of support on like the system side, on how to actually get stuff done, instead of just crusading around talking about ideas, because ideas are great, but if they don't get done, they're worthless. So that's kind of where EOS came in for me. Like that felt so good. That was like, okay, now I can kind of figure out how to learn how to build a business, like how to put the how together. And I felt like having both was really, really important.
Yeah, what's really interesting to me is, so last year, Stu and I talked about 7-figure flipping, the mastermind, and last year our mindset was different, and it was what and I'll speak for myself, but I saw a price tag, and I didn't really think about the value and the true ROI.
Yeah.
And this year we were like, we couldn't sign up quick enough after, the Flip Hacking Live. And I'll tell you what, this is the type of stuff that makes it awesome, right? So we would have never known about this CRM if we didn't actually plug in with you, talk to you. We would never know each other.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for this mastermind, right? And it can be it will be a game changer for our business. And the investment into the group and being a member, I think we're going to make that up, very quickly. And already this year, it's been amazing, the number of deals these last few months that I think are largely due to a shift in mindset as well. And so I'm completely thankful for the group and thankful to people like you who help us to grow and expand our mindset. But I also, to all our listeners out there, would highly encourage you to absolutely seek these groups and not look at the price tag, but rather look at how much is it, not how much does it cost, but how much will it cost you to not make that investment, because you're effectively buying access to people, ideas, systems, and things that'll make your business grow. So I think there's an amazing aspect to these masterminds, and it's just bringing people like you two integrators to, and looping me and folks like your husband in to make us actually focus on something. So that's awesome.
Well, and there's a lot, also like there's just so many people in these type of groups that want to just like reach out and pull you up with them and help you. And I mean, literally, like, what was it, David? Like the next week after we signed up, we had Phil Blake randomly like reached out to us like, hey, let's get on a call. I want to jump and help you out. And, I have a goal to help one person every single day. I was like, it's freaking awesome. And like, we've had like weekly calls with him, and he's like, and he's given us the how, like he's given us the how to step by step. And it's been amazing. And like, just getting yourself into groups like that, where they want to help you and they surround you and they give you ideas and steps and their network. It's been amazing. And I feel like incredibly blessed just to be a part of that mastermind. And then, we have another mastermind too that we run called War Room Mastermind. It's just for military and veterans. And that's been amazing too. And so it's just, I regret not getting into these masterminds way earlier in my real estate career. Cause it just was that all I saw was a price tag, and I wasn't willing to get over that hump of, looking at it differently.
And so, I've at least gotten 100 times back my investment, at least.
That's significant. That's awesome.
Yeah. And I've been part of that group for, I think, 4 years, since 2016.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it just continues to grow with you, right?
Yeah.
That's which is incredible.
Yeah. And you kind of get different things at different times too. I did a ton of it. Just like I did when I was brand new, didn't even know how to wholesale, I think the group grows too, and you kind of end up finding your people in the group, that like that can help you, and that you can help. And literally it's changed our business completely,
Yeah,
completely.
it's awesome. And what I'm super grateful for is the fact that Stu's in your group and you actually still talk to us, which is really amazing. So I thank you for your graciousness in that one. Well, I had another question. You talked about this partnership with you and your husband. How does that work out? Was there like a time dedicated to, okay, this is your role, this is my role, and we shall not cross into each other's roles? Is it
maybe I need another glass of wine to talk
yeah.
about. Yeah, that's hard. Working with your spouse is really hard. I think know thyself, what your strengths and your weaknesses are, for sure. And that can help you come up with the roles. When we first started, it was just kind of tag team. I'm at the hospital, he's at home, so he can do the real estate, versus he's at the hospital, I'm at home, I can do the real estate. So, or I have the kids or you have the kids, and we shared roles. Then that kind of quickly outgrew us, because Zach isn't good at the details or the paperwork or the transaction stuff. That was probably the biggest thing where things started segregating as far as like roles go. because he just couldn't handle like looking at a document. I'm like, oh my God, how could you not read this contract? And he said, I just can't read it. I just can't. I don't even know what's happening. So I was like, okay, I will do that.
That's so funny. The other day when we were on our call, he like came and was like, what do I sign? I don't even know where to sign. Like, can I just like not sign this and like can't let you have it? He like got all frustrated. He was in the background of our call. I was laughing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Your husband sounds like an amazing man. Just gonna throw that out there.
He's like, there's too many words on this thing. I'm like, okay, please help me.
That's so funny.
So that's how it started. I was like, okay, I'm going to do the paperwork. I'm going to do the details stuff. And you do, you think and you come up with ideas, you do the sales stuff. And yeah, we just kind of started segregating it out. And it wasn't for, probably a year or two that I even knew what an integrator was, And I was like, oh, that's me. I got that. Okay. And you're the visionary for sure. And then that helped. And when we did personality tests too, that really helped kind of try to figure out where our strengths and weaknesses would be. And thankfully, a lot of them were complementary. I mean, but sometimes we're not. Like sometimes we have the same weaknesses. Like, and I tell him he's created a monster now because I'm super stubborn and so is he. Like I hate to give up. I hate to fail. I hate to not be able to figure something out. And he's the same way. And sometimes we can both like get like hard-headed and stuck in our ways, something that really helped us as far as like the balance goes is to get an office outside the house. And now here we are in COVID, we're in the house. But when we were growing this, it was just really hard to have boundaries with the kids at home and like working and like it just worked. Like the real estate stuff just took over the whole house. Like we were talking about it, like putting the kids to bed, talking about deals. I'm like, this is inappropriate. We need to, and the stuff was in our house, all the files. So like a project manager would come to the house or like a contractor would come to pick up a check. And I'm like, this is just, I can't do this anymore. So we got an office probably way before our business actually needed it because our relationship needed it. I wanted to like put crap in the office and like, that's where it goes and have some sort of transition. And it's still not perfect. I mean, we still talk about it at home all the time, but it feels like that really helped with the boundaries. And now, thankfully, we did that for so many years that now we can kind of have a little bit more boundaries at home. But again, it's not perfect. It's not even close to perfect. And there are some days where they're like the family stuff, the kids are crying and they're getting hot dogs for dinner, or Zach's making dinner, which he graciously does quite a bit. Like thank God he'll cook, because sometimes I'm just in the weeds, So I don't know. I think it's a work in progress. I think you got to talk a lot and do your best to put boundaries and sort of transition periods between work and home, and just keep your priorities straight,
Yeah, I think the intentionality behind the relationship building and having those conversations is key. And the fact that you guys are so intentional with that, I think is a testament to your success, to your maturity, dedication, passion, and also it's I think it directly is attributable to how you guys are freaking crushing it. Right? It's awesome.
Well, it turns out I really like him. Sometimes I forget. Like sometimes we'll go on a date and I'm like, oh my gosh, I really like you. I kind of like forgot how cool you are. Because I don't know if you guys ever feel that way about your wives, but like you're just kind of working, things are moving, kids are crazy, and like you're just doing your thing. And then when you finally sit across from each other, you're like, oh, wait a minute. Like it's you, So I think that helps to like each other, and it helps to have that time to realize that you like each other, to remember that you like each other. And it's not just about business and not just about raising kids. It's also about your relationship, So I think it's hard to do. It's hard to put time on the schedule. Like just being a parent, it's hard for me to do that, let alone a business owner,
You talked a lot about that on the Flip Hacking Live conference, where kind of the different roles and being like this the CEO's wife, the CEO husband. Could you kind of just work, kind of get short on time, but could you just kind of run through that just real fast? Because I just thought that was super, super powerful.
Yeah, sure. So I think that there are three roles for a spouse in the relationship, and I'll just speak from the woman's perspective. I think that there could be a CEO wife, and in that type of role, I think there's some struggle with gender roles. I think that's something you're going to have to talk about, like, because if somebody has to help, someone has to be a support system to the CEO, whether it's a male or a female. And if it happens to be a female, then there's going to be some sort of like gender role discussion. And you may find you're totally comfortable with, making dinner and taking care of kids while your wife is traveling or speaking or whatever. And then for the wife and be in the CEO role, you're going to struggle a little bit with security, like security in the chaos. Is this safe? Because like as a CEO, like you're going, like you're just you have to just go, and sometimes you can't think about all the details. So I think you as a woman in that role kind of struggle with a little bit of the security, and then being a partner wife, and the partner wife, that's where like the roles, responsibilities, and like having clear communication and boundaries come into play, and the balance stuff when you're both have active roles and you're trying to divvy it up and keep it all together. I think communication is critically important there. And then you have the supportive wife, and that maybe you are the wife and working in a different field, or that means that you're the wife working at home and trying to take care of the kids in the household. And I think the struggles there are a little bit of loneliness, feeling a little bit disconnected, not living in the same world, and doing some things independently and wondering, are you being seen? And I speak from the woman's perspective because that's my perspective, and I've been in all those roles and I felt all those feelings. And I think what's really important is to acknowledge what your role is, like in the business and in the home life, and deal with talk about the struggles and the things that you're feeling, because they're all overcomable. Everything is figure outable, right? But I think knowing where you're at helps you communicate better. So if I just say here on this podcast, like, hey, talk about gender roles, and then you get to have that discussion with your spouse, and you get to say, listen, like it actually like hurts my feelings to be primary caretaker versus I really don't care if I'm primary caretaker. So just having some sort of conversation, I think will really help you have a healthy relationship.
What if you're like a dude and you just don't like to talk at all, ever?
You gotta talk.
That's right. Definitely not my problem. That is not a problem that I know. What if you have terrible handwriting, and I'm speaking about a friend and also can't spell. So that's not an option either.
Then you gotta type.
There you go. No, I think that's great advice. And one of the things that we want to be intentional about, because, something that's important to Stu and I for the business, but also in our home life and our podcast is ensuring that we are opening the platform to minority, whatever, right? So women in this business, Latinos, Blacks, whites, whatever it may be, because we both have daughters, right? And I'm very passionate about my young Latina daughter being empowered and understanding from her daddy, from her Uncle Stewie, and from her mother, and these different influences, to understand that she can be whether it's those roles, but whatever she chooses to be, and to find great success in that, to be a Stephanie Betters, right? And so we've been talking about the fact that having these strong, influential, impactful women, hearing that voice as well is so important and so impactful, not just to us, because it broadens our horizons, but also I'm hoping that my daughter's listening to these things, that my wife is listening to these things, that my mom is listening to them, and realizing, hey, I have permission to be amazing too, and I don't need anybody to tell me that I can be amazing. I can be amazing, and we love that.
Yeah, I mean, I've bumped into who are intolerant with the fact that I'm a woman. Like can't believe
it's crazy.
it. I mean, I'm shocked by it because I don't generally feel like marginalized. I've worked in male dominated industries like really for always, but I've never really felt marginalized, so I will say that. But I have run into, even at the hospital, some people have a problem with me, not with me being a woman, just the initial first impression. And I get that too sometimes in real estate, but I will say that like fewer and far between, but maybe because I don't even look anymore, you know, I don't notice. I'm too busy moving forward, and I hope that my kids see that, to not look on the sidelines, just to look forward.
Well, I think the other part of that is for those individuals, particularly in this business, if hypothetically that's where you're at, we miss out on the opportunity for some amazing CRM, right? We
That's
miss
right.
out on the opportunity for some amazing conversation, mentorship, guidance, and who knows what that does ultimately to the business, because the diversity of thought and understanding that, hey, everybody has something significant to offer. If
Yeah.
you have a problem with that, then you're limiting yourself and your bottom line every single time. So I think that's awesome. I think that's an awesome point.
Yeah. And I think diversity is how we're better. Like I love hearing different opinions, different thoughts. I love being challenged on different perspectives and a different way of thinking about things. Like that's what makes us strong. If we can relate to each other, and we all can, in some degree we can all relate. I don't care how different you think we are on the surface. So I think it's so phenomenal to come together and have that collective thought. I think that's what makes us, strong.
So where does a growing young woman entrepreneur figure out where to start? Where would you suggest someone kind of start? Look, either a resource or a group of people, or where do they go?
I think you look for your people. You look for a community, and you start getting yourselves around people who are doing things that you want to do. And that can be starting with a local RIA, like go to meetup.com and find a real estate investment association, nearby, and go there and start meeting people. And then looking on some bigger sources like Bigger Pockets, I think is great. Listening to podcasts like this is fantastic. There's a lot of great, people out there who are just speaking out into the the waves, whatever you call them, the sound waves. There's so many resources out there where you can start learning and educating yourself, and then I think you feel a little bit safer. You kind of feel what your next measured step is going to be and start to figure out what that looks like for you. And then when you get that like feeling in your gut that you're like, oh my god, I'm scared, but I think I could probably do this, but I'm scared, then you go do it.
Nice.
Get that feeling in your gut, then you jump.
Love
Awesome.
it. Love it.
Awesome.
Well, you want to talk for another hour and keep on going?
She's got to go refill her wine.
I
Actually,
know.
you kind of been sipping that. I was expecting a little more
More
aggressive.
talk-
Oh no, you did
Hey,
good. You did good.
what is your like best friend status look like right now? I mean, do you have anyone in the running for it?
This guy.
I mean, I am always looking for a new best friend. So if you have like
I
an
have-
application or anything like that.
I'm really sorry that position is filled.
Oh,
My best friend in the entire world, who is a huge part of my core values, is Jenny Muzzy, and she is one of the best human beings on this whole planet. So hopefully she listens to this and she hears it.
nice. High five, Jenny.
Filled.
High
Position
five,
filled.
Jenny. Position
All right.
filled. And
Fair
Stuart
enough.
denied again. Nobody wants to be your best friend.
Denied.
Nobody wants to be your best friend.
I can be your friend.
Okay, that's fair. I'll take that.
Yeah, Jenny saw me back in the day with my bangs and my crazy eyebrows, and she still loved me. So
Nice. That's awesome. Well, how can people get a hold of you? What's the best
okay.
way?
So Facebook, you can always find me on Facebook, Stephanie Betters. You can email me, Stephanie at leftmainrei.com. Those are probably the best ways. Facebook, I mean, I feel like that's pretty easy.
Cool.
I don't think there's another Stephanie Betters out there that I know of.
All right.
So,
David, you got anything?
Awesome. No, I just want to thank you, Stephanie, for your time. Obviously, as you highlighted early in the interview, very, very busy woman. I want to thank you for your influence. I want to thank you for your graciousness to come on the show and really for taking time with us to not only be on the podcast, but also spending time with us outside the podcast to teach us some CRM and just give us mentorship. We are extremely grateful.
There's a lot more time that's coming with Stephanie.
There's going to be a lot more time.
You're going to teach us a lot of things about CRM. I don't know if you know that yet, but we're going to bug you.
I'm excited.
It's coming. But thank you thank you so very much for just taking your time and gracing us with this podcast. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be on it.
All right, awesome. Everybody, go reach out to Stephanie. She is a wealth of knowledge, and she is, but by all means, a go-giver. She's gonna give you everything she's got. Like this, share it. Give me 5 stars. David. You can give him 1 star, maybe.
And if you want to leave it in the ratings that, hey, there's not a 2-star system and you want to highlight how dumb you think Stu is, please, we welcome those comments. We read them and really look forward to it.
But most importantly, go fill your storehouse.
Make it a great day.
See ya.
See ya.